I think the difference was the mindset and the willingness to work hard for the team tonight. It's not so much tactical, because from a tactical perspective, even though Dominic and Lockie are new, the most important thing for me is the way we approach the game. And then they obviously know the game model, and they're still learning it. But you can, in football, there's two ways to affect the game: with intensity or with tactics. And if on the day, tactically or technically, you're not great, you can make up so much for it with intensity in the way you work. And there's so many plays that these guys made, Crooksy in particular, who was just chasing balls down. He was an extra guy in the midfield when we didn't have the ball. And then he sprung Dominic and a few other guys in the attack. And so, again, I look at this more from a holistic perspective versus just individual players. Because at the end of the day, whoever's playing in those positions needs to work their tails off for the team. And when we do that, and when we've done that in the past, we're a great team. And there's been a lot of interruptions over the course of the season. And like normal human beings, sometimes all this press from the media starts to affect the human being. And that is so normal. And so with all these changes, and then obviously with Andres going out, Chicho not being with the group for a while, it's only natural. And so what I'm trying to do is making sure that it doesn't matter who steps on the field. These are the mandatory minimums that we have to display game in and game out. And I am so grateful that we got the 3 points tonight, because the guys busted their tails, they worked hard for each other, and that's who we are as a team. And there's relationships within the team. For example, Chicho and Andres Gomez, best buds. They've linked up for I don't know how many goals this year, close to 30 goals. And now Andres is gone. That's naturally going to have an effect on your psyche as a human being, not as a soccer player, as a human being, right? My best guy, the Robin to my Batman, right? And so naturally, he's going to feel a little bit like, wow, I got to rekindle with my group. And then the actions of the player who's playing in there, which is going to be a new player, are different than what I used to do with Andres. And then there's, like I said earlier, there's been a lot of talk about individual brilliance on this team, and deservedly so. But that also has an effect on the way you think about it. And it's so easy in difficult times to start thinking about yourself. Leadership is easy when you're winning. Leadership is extremely difficult when there's adversity. And so from my chair, it's more about who are we, what's our mindset, and how do we get back, regardless of who the player is, to being a tough team to play against. Because when we play good defensively from the front, we have quality to kill teams. When we don't do that, we are an average team. Our superpower and what gives us a +1 on offense and a +1 on defense is our work rate and our commitment to the cause. Without that, we are average. What happens on the field is going to happen. Players are going to make mistakes. I encourage players to make mistakes because I want them playing from a place of freedom. If you say, don't do this and don't do that, they're always going to play what you're saying, don't do it. And I'm saying, do it, express yourself, be brave. However, when we lose the ball, 11 dogs after it. 11 dogs after it. Now, if we're not good with the ball and we don't have 11 dogs after it, we are an average team. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so it's really about, and then when the players see this group of guys who haven't played together, to your point, DJ, who haven't trained a whole lot because we've only had a couple of days to train, go out and just do what's being asked, which is great reactions and great defensive mentality. We scored 3 goals. That ain't tactics. I care about this team. I want to be a part of it, and the team is greater than me. But all these other things that have happened are natural. It's not anybody's fault. It's just a natural effect of getting a little bit high on our horse, and then things aren't going well. And then it's like, well, and everyone has egos. And professional athletes have to have an alter ego. They have to. Because for the amount of people in their lives that told them they couldn't do it, and if they believed every word that everyone says, they wouldn't be where they are today. And so that's the toughest thing in this from my chair. is you're important, but you're great when you work for the team. And how do you do that? Well, every guy needs something different. Some guy needs a hug. Some guy needs a video. Some guy needs a stiff conversation. It's different. And that's why, for me, coaching is all art. It's all art. And it's dealing with human beings. And it's understanding their plight, which is not easy.
Welcome into a brand new episode of the RSL Show. I'm Alex Napoles. That's Josh Clark. Josh, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm in a better mood than last time we talked.
Is that
How
so?
are you?
Good, man, good.
It's very much so.
Does it have anything to do with the Real Salt Lake's 3-2 win over FC Dallas last night?
Absolutely. It's everything to do with it.
And does it have anything to do with Colorado getting beat 4-1?
Listen, just inject that straight into my veins.
Who would have thought that the Rapids were going to go to Sporting Kansas City and we're just going to get beat?
I mean, that's the nature of the league, though, man.
It
you
is.
know what I mean?
It absolutely is.
To take the old football adage, any given Wednesday, instead of Sunday. I don't know if that took you a second. But anyone could beat anyone on any given Wednesday. So, shocking. Let's just get into the results from around the league. Let's start there.
So you want to start there? We'll do it.
Yeah, why not?
So last night, Major League Soccer was a midweek matchups around the league. Atlanta United tying 2-2, coming back from being down against Inter Miami. Good result there for Atlanta. New England was up 2-0, and then Montreal came back and was able to tie it up 2-2. Philadelphia with a big 5-1 win over New York City FC.
That's a wild win for me.
It is a wild one, considering how, New York City FC have kind of showed moments of being really good this year and then have kind of been average at other times.
Mm-hmm. They're not the year they won MLS Cup was just, it felt so fluky.
It did.
And they've always just been kind of a fluky team. They've never been a good team.
Right. Even with the Lampards.
That was one of the... that was atrocious.
Lampard, Pirlo, who else was on
Gerrard.
that team?
Or not on that team, but that was the group of guys that came over.
Yeah.
That little group of old heads that came over were just atrocious.
I think David Villa was probably the only one that actually made an impact.
I forgot he came over.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that big of an impact.
Big win for Philadelphia as that one puts them over the playoff line. They are now in 9th place over in the East. So good on them. Columbus with a 2-0 win over Toronto FC. Orlando City beating Charlotte 2-0. And then here we go. The Western Conference results. Almost all of them favor Real Salt Lake. Houston with a 1-1 draw over Vancouver. Cincinnati beating Minnesota 2-1. Nashville with a 1-0 win over Chicago. Sporting Kansas City beating Colorado Rapids 4-1. Of course, Real Salt Lake winning 3-2 against FC Dallas. LAFC with a 1-1 draw against Austin. Portland with a big 4-2 win over LA Galaxy. And the Seattle Sounders drawing 2-2 to San Jose.
So what are your two biggest surprise results in there? Because there's some surprises in that whole list you just gave me.
I think the two biggest ones obviously has to be Sporting Kansas City over Colorado Rapids.
100%.
That's probably number one.
And then followed by the LA Portland result.
No, I'm going to say LAFC Austin.
It's all surprising.
I think Portland makes a little bit more sense and we'll get into it too once we preview the Portland Timbers later on in the show. But Portland, they're scoring goals galore, man. They have the highest, if not one of the highest attacks in Major League Soccer. Looking at this, they are, besides Inter Miami, they're the highest scoring in the West. And so, not as surprising. Plus, you get them. Plus, it's Portland at home. Always a tough matchup. I think Austin FC going to LAFC and getting a draw, leading for a majority of that one at BMO Stadium, is probably number two to me.
All right, that's fair. I'm not going to argue. It's fair.
The only reason that result is not favorable is because with an LAFC win, Real Salt Lake would have clinched a playoff spot. But since LAFC drew with Austin, got to hold on for clinching just a little bit longer.
Yeah, that would have been nice, but knowing everyone beneath us drop points essentially kind of eased the urgency for me to clinch it last night. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think, considering the downward spiral that Real Salt Lake was in, just getting the 3 points, taking back second place, thanks to all the results that happened around them, I think that it just makes you feel a little bit better.
It does. I'm still bitter, not bitter, but like there's a long way to go for me to trust that RSL is going to continue to win.
Right.
Like we need to go and do it again on Saturday, right? And kind of pick up momentum in the right way, not have these little stopgap wins.
Sitting at the top of the West, LA Galaxy with 55, 5 points ahead of Real Salt Lake, who's in second with 50. LAFC in third with 49. Colorado Rapids in fourth with 47. In fifth, Seattle Sounders with 47. At one point, they were in second because they jumped Real Salt Lake, and then San Jose luckily was able to pull a draw out.
Wild. We really dude, keep second.
Yes.
Crazy to say, we have to win out.
Yes.
It's so close. It's unbelievable.
And that's kind of what I was going with that, because Seattle, who's in fifth, jumped Real Salt Lake for a little bit of a moment there, just with how the results were shaking out. They ended up falling back to fifth because of the draw, but that is how close things are in the Western Conference. Seattle Sounders, who were in fifth, made it all the way to the top.
Yep. Wild.
Vancouver in sixth with 46, Houston in seventh with 45, Portland in eighth with 43, Minnesota in ninth with 39, and then just below the playoff line, Austin FC with 35 and FC Dallas with 34. It's the Wild Wild West, man.
No other way to put it.
Everything is too close for comfort right now.
Mm-hmm.
Again, super important that Real Salt Lake got the 3 points, but like you were mentioning, Josh, that needs to continue, because with just one loss, Real Salt Lake could very well be down in sixth place.
Which, jumping from top half of the table all year long to one loss away from sitting in sixth, that doesn't feel great.
No, everything is way too close for comfort right now. Real Salt Lake, of course, holding on to that home playoff spot at the moment, but like I said, with a loss, you can lose out your home field advantage in the playoffs.
Just like that.
Crazy things going on in Major League Soccer. As always, we love it. The heart adrenaline pump that it gives us is always the best. And like I said, Real Salt Lake last night pulling off a 3-2 win against FC Dallas. So let's get into that, Josh. First things first, starting 11, a little bit rotated, and Pablo Mastroeni is listening to the RSL show, because who starts this game but Matt Crooks?
At the 10. And who has a fantastic game? Matt Crooks.
I thought he did pretty well.
Yeah. This is going to sound harsh towards Diogo, but he wasn't invisible.
He was not, no.
Right? And that's kind of where I was getting at with my frustration last week with him, is it's really hard to have a guy taking up space on the field that you're forgetting is on the field, especially in the attack. So big ups to Matt Crooks for coming in and doing a job.
And I mean, we talked about the importance of a 10 earlier in the year. That's what we wanted to see. We got it. And I don't want to say he hasn't lived up to it, because I mean, he's 4 games in.
Right.
But it's going to take time, and we're seeing kind of the adjustment, but it's really, I think now, kind of seeing Matt Crooks against FC Dallas compared to what we've seen from Diogo in the past couple of weeks. I do think right now Diogo is hindering the attack.
Yeah, I think he needs to fill the role of the bench guy until he's fully integrated and comfortable, right? Once he starts having success off the bench, right, kind of starts building that mojo, then he can kind of integrate into that starting role. But the pressure of leading the team while not feeling comfortable, it's clear that he doesn't feel comfortable yet. So
right,
yeah, I don't see why we can't run with Matt Crooks, have Diogo come in off the bench and wait till he finds his footing, because it was night and day, honestly, night and day.
A lot of changes into this starting 11 for Real Salt Lake, mostly because obviously there's still that game against Portland you need to worry about on Saturday.
And suspensions.
And suspensions, which, I mean, if it's going to happen, might as well happen now. When you got the midweek, you got a chance to rotate a little bit. So, I mean, it kind of works out. No Alex Catranis, he's out for suspension. In comes Andrew Brody. Interesting to see Philip Quinton at the right back position. I know he's played it before, and I understand Catranis is out, so I understand why you would want to hold out Bodie Hidalgo and kind of have him as an option off the bench. But still interesting that Philip Quinton gets to start at the right back position.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of Jervain Brown having a little bit of a knock. Not a serious one, but, we keep him healthy. But with the Bodie thing, you think you'd give Bodie a run, right? But maybe they're trying to save up Bodie too. I don't know. But nervy to see him, starting again. But he did fine.
He did all right. Brian Vera back into the 11 as well following that injury. Good to see him back. Of course, McAnally and Brian Ojeda holding it down in the midfield. Now here's where the most interesting decisions for me. Obviously, you want to hold out Luna for the game on Saturday. Give him a little bit of a break, give him a little bit of a rest. But I was so impressed with Lachlan Brook and Dominic Markzuk.
They were incredible.
They were phenomenal last night.
Yeah. I know Brook, he had a few shots that I wish weren't directly at the keeper, but he was close to a brace. Marshak showing some pace, right? He was pretty quiet for the first half, but in that second half, really showing some pace. And then that beautiful assist to Julio. But kind of circling back a little bit to what you said earlier, Vera being back, unbelievable for RSL, man.
Yes, huge.
There were some stops he had that I don't think Justin Glad or Philip Quinton would have gotten to, right? So having him back was huge for this game.
Brian Vera is just a natural destroyer, man.
He's
going to go out there and he's not going to be afraid to commit the challenge. He's not going to be afraid to go out there and contest for a ball. He is just an absolute tank, an absolute destroyer in that back line. And I might argue now that he might be a little bit more essential to that back line than Justin Glad is at the moment.
I completely agree. But I think it's essential that we have them together.
Yes, there you go.
Yes. Well, yes, the wingers coming all the way back. I had to bring up Vera before I forgot. But the wingers, man, a little nervous to see them both starting. Like, okay, what are we going to get? But man, didn't miss a beat. It was incredible to see some pace, on the wing with Marchuk. Brooke has a little bit of Diego in him, right? A little shifty. Oh, they look great.
They looked really good. And the entire time that I was watching the match, it brought me back to a conversation we had earlier in the week, Josh, where you were talking about stretching the field, using pace to replace Gomez, right? Who was going to replace Andres Gomez in that aspect? And I think we saw it a little bit last night for Markzuk. And he's going to be, I think, to me, as soon as we get down the line, Markzuk's going to be that natural replacement for Andres Gomez. You saw glimpses of it last night. It's just going to take a little bit of time. He's very raw right now. It's just going to take a little bit of time to not only adjust to Real Salt Lake, but of course to Major League Soccer.
Yeah, I think he's going to be big for us. Just had another thought. Would it be such a bad idea to finish out the year with Chicho starting behind Julio? We saw a little bit of that earlier in the year.
Yes.
And it seemed to work out well. But think of a Luna and then a Chicho Julio and then either, Lachlan Brook or Marchuk on the right. It sounds kind of scary to me, right? You have dual speed threats there. You have Chicho who likes to drop deeper anyway. I don't know. It might be something to consider.
And I'm glad you bring that up because now we get to the striker position. Of course, Anderson Julio has to start in place of a suspended Chicho Arango last night. But I would argue that Anderson Julio had his best performance in an RSL jersey last night.
In a long time. Right. I remember his first season here, I believe against his first game that he played for us against Austin FC.
Minnesota.
Was it Minnesota?
Minnesota.
It was years ago. But if I remember right, he had the game winner and maybe a brace in that one.
He did. His debut with the brace.
Yep. So that's probably my favorite Anderson Julio game. I've had a lot of great Anderson Julio moments, but this was a complete, as a starter, complete match for Anderson Julio.
And I think the best thing about Anderson last night, and why I say it's his best performance, is because he was actually aware of the offsides. I mean, yes, he did get caught a couple times, especially early in the game.
You're going to get a couple.
But that run that goal, that second goal where Mark Zook's playing a ball in behind from the wing, that doesn't happen if Anderson Julio is not being aware of where he is on the pitch, of where the defenders are on the pitch.
Right.
And it was just good awareness from Anderson Julio to make sure that he's not in an offside position when that ball's played in. And it was nice. It was nice to see from Anderson, because that's just something we don't necessarily see from Anderson.
Right. And he had a kind of an asterisk hat trick, right? Because he drew the penalty for the first goal.
Yep.
Right. Let Vera take it. And then had his absolute bomb from midfield. This has to be the best year for RSL and midfield bombs, right? I mean, we've had so many. So that was an incredible goal. And then, honestly, I think the third goal might have been the most impressive, though, because, again, stayed onside.
Yes.
A beautiful pass in stride under pressure, right? A great finish. So big ups to Anderson Julio.
A lot of positives coming out of this one, right? We talked about Anderson Julio. We talked about the wingers. I thought Emekanelli and Brian Ojeda looked a lot better.
But, brother, they were pressing.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going with this.
Yeah. Wild, right?
Crazy what happens when you press. And the interesting thing, man, is it was brought up to Pablo Mastroeni in the post-game press conference, and I love the way that he just simplified it. And he said, look, when we lose the ball, we have to have dogs out there. There has to be 11 dogs chasing that ball, going after the ball. And I just love how he put a lot of emphasis on dogs.
Yeah,
I think
he's right. He's right.
That's what's been missing. And we saw it last night, and I loved it.
Yes. And honestly, like, I know FC Dallas scored 2 goals. To me, right, I know a goal's a goal, but kind of fluky, right? The free kick was smart, I guess. That one is so questionable, and there's so many things there for me, but obviously let it stand. I wish the defense and maybe a wall was getting put together a little quicker, but I digress. Right. It is what it is, right? And then that penalty is a bit harsh for me, right? So like it's not like they scored 2, field of play, open play goals that our defense really floundered and failed on.
Right.
So that's impressive for me too. They got a little lucky, FC Dallas.
They did. I think it took a little bit of luck for them to score in this one. I mean, the penalty, like, I am annoyed that it was a late VAR decision. I feel like Ojeda's arm was in a natural position. Yeah.
Who jumps with their arms? Like, for that kind of jump, moving backwards, your arms are going to be out weird because you're jumping and bouncing. Those ones kill me. They kill me.
It's a conversation we've had before, man. What are you supposed to do? What constitute as a natural position? I just don't know anymore, because every ref has a different interpretation. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those moments.
Yep.
Congratulations for converting the penalty, I guess, sure. FC Dallas.
And you could even make an argument that the penalty FC Dallas conceded was kind of weak, because it was. But it was definitely more of a penalty than, I don't know. I don't think that ball was even going to be on target if Ojeda's hand didn't hit it, right? It's just a lot to it. But whatever. We still got the 3 points. But what I was really getting at was I think RSL did a good job defensively.
They did. They showed a lot better defensively than they have in the past couple of weeks. Beobviously, that Vera partnership, we saw it work yesterday. They looked very well. Gavin Beavers, I thought, made some really nice saves as well. Give him credit too, becoming the youngest goalkeeper ever in Major League Soccer with an assist.
Yep.
Thanks to that second goal from Anderson Julio.
The only scary Beavers moment was towards the end of the game when he had the ball played back to him and he tried to play it out right to Glad and ended up kicking it behind himself for a corner.
Oh, yeah.
But otherwise, he had a good night.
Yes, otherwise he was pretty solid. There's a lot of positives and a lot of good things to take out of this one. I think finally we're seeing Rouse Lake kind of wake up a little bit. They're finally waking up and realizing, oh, we're falling down the table. We got to do something about it. Yep. Because they did have a bite. They did have, a little bit of a different approach. Even at the beginning of the game, they did have a little bit more urgency, I guess, than what I saw in Houston.
Yeah, they looked like they cared to play the match.
There you go.
Right, Houston was just so ugly. Right, there were so many things to nitpick and be upset about. The simple, as a fan, feeling like your team wants to play, it goes a long way.
And we saw it on this one. We saw them come out. It seemed right from the get-go, it seemed like Real Salt Lake wanted to be there. They wanted the 3 points. And like I said, at the end of the day, still things you need to clean up, especially in the midfield, especially in the attack. But at the end of the day, you'll take the 3 points.
Yeah, that game put us trending in the right direction.
There, yes.
And it's going to be important, right? It was nice to see Marchuk get an assist on the board, right? That's going to give him some confidence. Now we really need Brook to get, something, right? He's sniffing out the goal. I think he's going to score here soon. And, Diogo had the goal that was offside. That was a great finish, right? We just need him to get one that counts. It's crazy what a stat does for a player and their confidence. So the sooner these new guys can get something on the board for themselves, the better it's going to be for RSL.
Yeah, I thought stepping into the game and immediately getting a goal for Diogo, I thought that would have been huge for his confidence, huge for coming into this attack and hopefully seeing what he truly brings to the table, right? But unfortunately, it just didn't count. And I think that's what Diogo needs. I think he just needs to be out there, get an assist, get a goal, and he'll come around.
Yeah, but it needs to do it off the bench.
For now.
Yep.
But
it was a beautiful finish. I'm not going to take that away from him. It was a perfectly placed ball. So that was more of that, please.
Man of the match, Anderson Julio. Right?
It has to be Ando. And then your man of the match, B and C, I'm going Matt Crooks and Brian Vera. They were incredible for me.
I think for me, B would be Vera first.
It's funny. We talk about not having the dogs on the field, right? This kind of last long stretch where we've looked kind of mediocre. That's 2 dogs right there.
Yes.
Vera's an absolute. He's the pit bull, right? But Matt Crooks isn't far behind him. Like, he has the passion. You can see it while he's playing. I mean, he had a nice challenge that was a yellow card, but it's a yellow card I like, right? It's a tone setter, even though it was towards the end of the game. But he was just everywhere that he could be, and that's what we need to see. We need to see that hustle, that fight. So, it really showed in our play having those 2 on the field.
Josh, let me take you back to July 13th.
That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. It feels like an eternity ago, considering everything that's happened since then.
It really does.
Real Salt Lake are fresh off a 5-2 win against Atlanta United. They're on this incredible winning streak, but there was a couple of good wins mixed in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you head to Portland. And everybody was riding high. The fan base is feeling good. And then Portland just absolutely destroys you. Yeah,
that's about when the wheels fell off.
That's when everything started, yes. Because then the Monday morning, Chicho got suspended.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's when the wheels fell off.
Yes. 3-0 loss to Portland at Portland. Now the reverse fixture. He welcomed them into America First Field. How are we feeling heading into this matchup against the Portland Timbers?
I mean, still nervous, and I don't want to get too excited or anything. I feel better than I would have had we dropped points to who did we just play? Dallas, right? So I'm feeling pretty good, but it's still gonna be a tough match. But I want to believe the guys are gonna be up for it. So I want to believe we're gonna have a decent performance. I'm not gonna say we're gonna win, but I'm gonna say we're not gonna get blown out by Portland at home.
This is the Portland Timbers side who, like I said, they are behind Inter Miami, the highest scoring team in the league. And to put it into perspective, Felipe Mora has 14 goals. Jonathan Rodriguez has 14 goals. Evander has 14 goals. And to go along with that, Evander has 14 assists.
Yikes. They need to sell Evander so we don't have to deal with him anymore. Look, I think the key to this match is going to be having our back line together, right? We need Catranis back, Vera Glad playing, and Javane Brown. He needs to be in there, right? We need a guy to get in there and cause some issues. So having that back four back together is going to be key, along with Anelli and Ojeda doing what they do best. If we can control that back six, per se, and then have Chicho back in the mix and being threatening, this Portland team is absolutely beatable. But we need RSL at their best defensively to get that result.
It's going to be a big ask, considering how high-powered, how high-potent this attack is. But if I do remember correctly, a majority of the Portland goals that they scored at Providence Park back on July 13th came from a certain wing that
was on his way out.
Their left wing, our right wing, and not only that, but I mean, Andrew Brody made some glaring mistakes in that one.
Yeah, a lot of that game was us beating ourselves.
Yes.
Let's be real. So you had Andrew Brody having an absolute shocker of a night. And then that's when the rumors about Gomez started coming around. And that's when we kind of saw him get a little more selfish and not work as hard defensively. I know everyone loves him and they don't want to see it that way. But towards the end of Gomez's tenure here, he was a different player.
He was.
So, you know, this RSL team should be able to beat Portland any day. So it's just going to take the back line coming together and honestly Chicho getting some goals because, yes, Portland is ferocious in the attack, but they're horrendous defensively, right? So we also have offensive firepower and we have a defensive juggernaut when they want to be. So put those two together, right?
Yes.
I'm doing everything I can to not say RSL is going to get 3 points because I believe that's bad luck.
They're an offensive juggernaut, but the defense is leaky. They've conceded 50 goals on the year, which is one of the highest in the Western Conference. So the opportunities will be there. But I believe that this game will come down to that, just the defensive cohesion, being better on the defensive side of the ball, not getting exposed on the wings like you did at Portland, and controlling that midfield.
Feed Chicho.
Yeah.
Get the record broken for him, right? Let's get that, weight off his back. If Chicho can get a goal against Portland, I think he's going to go off.
I think no matter what, in this game, Chicho has to break whatever slump he's in right now. I know he hasn't played that much, but I mean, in the minutes that he has played, he does seem like he's not the same Chicho.
Yeah, but he's a hungry Chicho, hungry in the fact that he's not getting fed.
Yes.
He's not hungry to score. He's hungry in the wrong kind of hungry.
In whatever way, it could be off a PK for all I care. But you need to get that. You need to get Chicho Arango to break the duck.
Yep. And I think starting him behind Julio is the best opportunity because Julio is going to pull those center backs away from Chicho, right? Hopefully, Portland's midfield's going to be tied up in the attack. We should have a lot of open space in this game, depending on how Portland come in and play. But the opportunity to give Chicho plenty of space in front of goal against this Portland team is huge.
Other positives for Real Soleil coming into this Portland game, Suparic is not available. Solid defender for them, as well as probably their best defender in Claudio Bravo, who is dealing with an injury, so he may not be available in this one. So Real Soleil, seeing that suspension, seeing that injury in the back, should take advantage of this not so great defensive Portland side.
Yeah, they should, but the question is, will they? We'll find out Saturday.
Anderson Julio has made a really good case to be a starter, man.
Mm-hmm.
He has made a fantastic... besides that first year where he came on and he scored those late goals, I do think Anderson Julio has made a really good case for himself to be a starter.
Right, which is totally opposite of what we've said in the past, right? He's always been a guy you want off the bench, but lately, he's looking good. And I think if you can figure out a way to get him and Chicho out there together, the world is your playground at that point. So
Pablo brought up a good point where, you look at this roster right now, and if Chicho goes down, or Chicho's suspended, and Julio goes down, you don't necessarily have options. So I don't think Julio will get the starting nod, but I do think he's made a case for himself of getting more playing time, getting more minutes.
But also, if you start them together and something happens, you can bring in Diogo to the 10, push one of them to the forward, right? You can bring in Crooks. There's options there. So you could play them at the same time.
There's definitely options, and I think it would be interesting. It's interesting just kind of seeing a lot of questions, I guess, in the starting lineup. What does Pablo decide to do? Do you go back to Diogo against Portland? Do you continue sticking with Matt Crooks? Do you go back to Diego Luna? Or do you stick Lachlan and Marczuk on the wings?
You have to go back to Luna, right? And give one of the other guys a shot on the wing, especially Marchuk. He went a lot of minutes on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
So I think you see Luna Brook start. I think you have to reward Crooks for his performance. I think not starting him on Saturday is cruel. He went for cut a few minutes though, so it's very possible that he doesn't. But I mean, he earned himself a start. I know he didn't put up any stats, but I'm not blind. People aren't blind. They can see the difference he made.
The attack just looked better with Matt Crooks out there against FC Dallas. But I mean, hey, the positive is you have options. Mm-hmm. You have options to kind of move things around and figure out what's healthier. We're getting healthier. Suspensions are obviously over for, in this case, Chicho. You have the options, and I think right now Rouse Lake are in a very pivotal moment where, of course, you have to continue getting 3 points to make sure that you stay with home field advantage in the playoffs. But I think they also need to figure out what's going to be the best combination in the attack to get you the best results in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think you have to figure that out now. You have to end the season on how you're going to go into the playoffs.
Exactly.
And really get comfortable with that.
Exactly. Which is why not only is 3 points important against Portland, but massive 3 points on the line, because not only would it help obviously the table, but it would help the confidence. And I think it might get you a little bit closer to figuring out what that best combination is going to be heading into the playoffs.
And honestly, we literally cannot lose at home again.
No.
Like it's not even an option for me. So a lot of questions going into Saturday, man.
A lot of questions, but thanks to that 3 points on Wednesday, I am feeling a little bit better about where Rouse Lake's at.
Yes. That just continue to make me feel better.
There you go.
Yep. It's always a but.
A lot of interesting matchups going on too around the league this weekend. Some matches to keep an eye on. The Austin FC will be taking on Houston Dynamo.
Let's go Austin. Hold on. Before we move on, are you seeing the stuff with Driussi?
No, I missed that. What's going on?
He's like all the Austin FC fans on Twitter that are like going after him. He's going and like liking and retweeting everything. He seems very unsettled and like he's ready to go.
I don't blame him.
Me neither. They're terrible.
They had that one fluky season where they were good, and instead of capitalizing on it, it just seemed like they took 5 steps back, and they haven't been able to get out of that funk since.
Yep. Anyway, a small derail.
Dallas taking on LAFC, Minnesota and Sporting KC, Colorado taking on Toronto, LA Galaxy and Vancouver, and then San Jose taking on St. Louis.
Man, I've never wanted some Canadian teams to win so badly.
Let's go Toronto.
Let's go Vancouver.
Let's go. Dami, help us out, man.
Yeah. And come on, Toronto. Harness your Giovinco energy, your Josie energy.
Who do they have right now? Insigne.
Yeah. And Bernadette.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would love nothing more than Colorado to finally hit a slump. I know they kind of started meh, but it's their turn to hit a slump.
I think this is a pivotal time for everybody in the league, man, because just like we were talking about how you want to figure it out before you get to the playoffs, I think a lot of these teams are trying to figure out before they get to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Who's going to get hot? Who's going to be looking good heading into this final stretch of games, right? For Rouse Lake, you got Portland at home. Next week, you have Austin away. Then you have Minnesota at home. Then the final away trip on October 5th against San Jose. And then it all comes down to decision day, Vancouver at home on October 19th.
And you know that the saddest part is we've entered the slump, and it can't continue into this schedule. Like, that is such a favorable schedule for us.
Mm-hmm.
We have to capitalize, man. We have to heat up and capitalize on this schedule, because not one of those teams you brought up, I'm like, oh, that sucks, right? There's no LAFCs on there. There's no Rapids. It's so gross to say. There's no Rapids. There's no Galaxy. There's no Inter Miami. There's no Columbus, Cincinnati. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, we got to beat up on that bottom half of the West. We have to.
If there's a time to figure it out and get hot right before the playoffs, it's right now with the schedule.
Like it's perfect. Like it's gift wrapped for you.
Yep.
Go get it.
There's 15 points left on the table, 5 games left, and you have 3 of those at home. You don't have really any difficult away trips.
No, we should, like, this team is good enough to collect every single one of those points.
I do agree. But it starts with Portland.
Yep, 1 game at a time at this point.
1 game at a time. If they can beat Portland, massive for the confidence of this club.
Yep. And then I'm feeling a lot better about potentially winning out. No one's getting, like, saying win out is that's hard, right? That's a lot of games to not have a draw or loss in there. But it's entirely possible to win out with what's left on this schedule, if the RSL we know and love wants it.
Josh, I think that'll wrap it up for today, man. Any last things you want to add before we get out of here?
The jacket Pablo is wearing is absolutely incredible, and I will be buying one on Saturday and wearing it for the rest of my life.
They asked him about the jacket in the postgame presser, and he said that somebody said that he was a terrible model for those products.
Well, they're wrong because he sold one to me.
It was very nice.
It's funny. There's no, like, medium opinion on it on the social medias. It's either that's incredible or that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. And I'm in the that's incredible camp. So that's my last parting message. That jacket's sick.
Go buy the jacket, everybody.
No, wait till after I buy it so I get one.
Yes, there you go.
Then go buy it.
That's going to do it for us here on the RSL Show on the KSL Sports Network. Make sure to go like, follow, subscribe. Go do what you have to do to follow the RSL Show for the best RSL content.